We have a cartel? Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhattajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhattajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this fourth day of December 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. text number 17. On page 610. Page 610, 610. Uttamaha Purushas Tvanyaha Paramatmeti Udaritaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vibharti Abhyaya Ishvaraha Uttamak Purushastvanyah Paramatme Judaritaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vibhartyamyaya Ishvaraha Uttamak Purushastvanyah Paramatme Judaritaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vibhartyamyaya Ishvaraha Uttamak Purushastvanyah Paramatme Judaritaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vibhartyamyaya Ishvaraha. Go ahead, Tapas. Uttamak Purushastvanyah. He's leading. Try it again. Uttamak Purushastvanyah Paramatme Judaritaha Lokatraya Avishya Vibhartyamyaya Ishvaraha Uttamak Purushastvanyah Paramatme Judaritaha Lokatrayam Avishya Vibhartyamyaya Ishvaraha. Ladies? Uttamak Purushastvanyah Paramatme Judaritaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vibhartyamyaya Ishvaraha. Uttamak Purushastvanyah Paramatme Judaritaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vibhartyamyaya Ishvaraha. Uttamak Purushastvanyah Paramatme Judaritaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vibhartyamyaya Ishvara. Asha. Uttama Purushastvanyah Paramatme Judaritaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vibhartyamyaya Ishvaraha. Chad, you there?
Uttama Purushastvanya
Uttamak Purushastvanya
Paramatme Judartaha
Paramatme Judaritaha
Yo Lokatrayam Avishya
Yo Lokatrayam Avishya
Vibhartyamyaya Ishvaraha.
Vibhartyamyaya Ishvaraha. Uttama, the best, Purushaha, personality. Two, but, Anyaha, another, Parama Atma, the Supreme Self. Iti, thus, Udaritaha, is said, Yaha, who, Loka, of the universe, Trayam, the three divisions, Avishya, entering, Vibharti, is maintaining, Abhyayaha, inexhaustible, Ishvaraha, the Lord. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. Okay, who are those two? Oh, the two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. Remember from yesterday? In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. Purport to the text 17. The idea of this verse is very nicely expressed in the Katha Upanishad 2.2.13 and the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.13. It is clearly stated there that above the innumerable living entities, some of whom are conditioned and some of whom are liberated, there is the Supreme Personality who is the Paramatma. The Upanishadic verse runs as follows. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yovdadati kaman tamatmastam ye nupashyanti dhiras tesham shanti shastruti netaresham. Katha Upanishad 2.2.13. The purport is that amongst all the living entities, both conditioned and liberated, there is one Supreme Living Personality, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who maintains them and gives them all the facility of enjoyment according to different work. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in everyone's heart as the Paramatma. A wise man who can understand him is eligible to attain perfect peace, not others. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this verse in the purport is one of the first I ever learned. Yeah. Nityo nityanam chet. Prabhupada would always quote the first two lines. That nityo nityanam, you have the singular nityaha, and you have nityanam, that's the plural. So among all of these eternal conscious beings, Chaitana and Chaitananam, you see that? Of all the eternal conscious living beings, namely us, all the living entities, and all the countless living entities and all the other species, there is one, Eko, among all of them, Bahunam, who is maintaining the others. He's providing everything we need. All of us sitting here are breathing, I assume. And, and where did that air come from? And these bodies themselves are also given to us, you see? And they're being maintained at every moment. So we just take it for granted. But there's a very nice verse describing that we're all kind of debtors. We're taking the sunshine, we're taking the water, we're taking the food, the air, everything that we need to live, and we take it for granted. But Prabhupada compares that if you're living in your apartment, in your home, and you don't pay the water bill, you don't pay the electricity bill, it gets shut off, right? Hey, Mr. Smith, you know, if you don't pay in 1 week, we're going to shut you up. So how much more we should be appreciative of those who are maintaining. So there's a very nice verse describes how we're all debtors. Devarshi bhutam nrinam patrinam nakin karo nayam rini charajan. Sarvatmanayak shadanam shadanyam gato mukundam pariritikartam. Is that there's a list of who we should feel indebted to. The Devas, you know, there's Varuna, there's Vayu, there's Durga, there's Brahma, there's all these different Devas who are supplying what we need. Surya, the sun god. So that's the first thing. Then the rishis, our teachers. Now some of us, you know, we haven't grown up in ashrams studying from spiritual souls, but we all took instruction from our teachers, beginning with our parents. They taught us so much, then you go to school, you see. So we have a great debt to the devas, to the rishis, bhutas, the living beings in general, you know. I mean, I remember, you know, I try to keep up on the certain aspects of the news, especially the climate change, which is pretty serious. And there's a huge die-off. I think they mentioned it in Europe. They tested of insects. You know, we don't realize how important the insects are for keeping the earth, you know, fertilized and all kinds of things. Bees, obviously bees, you know. Big die-off of bees. You know, in here in California, it's huge almond groves up north. Many of the almonds are all around the world come from California. But they need to be pollinated every year, those trees. And the native bees, California, that die off, they have to ship in from all over the country. They carry the beehives, these are commercial hives, to California at a certain season and rent them out like that. Probably don't know that. So anyway, we should feel that we're dependent. Now ultimately, as devotees, we should feel dependent on the Lord. Because whatever these other entities can give us is being facilitated by Krishna himself. He's the one who's maintaining everything. So that's what devotees realizes that. So Nitya Chaitanas Eko Bahunam Yovadadati Kaman. Kama means the things we need, the things in order to live is being provided. So that's a very nice understanding. And that's what this verse is all about. Besides all of the countless living beings described in the previous verse, the fallible and the infallible. And I mentioned what it means in Prabhupada's vocabulary. You kind of have to understand, Fallible. He saw the word fallible. Well, obviously it means fallible. They're fallible, right? They fell from the spiritual world. We're all fallible, and we're certainly imperfect. What fallible really means, in the regular English language, is that you don't make any mistakes. So Krishna is certainly infallible in that sense also, you see. But he never falls, and those living entities who are very, very undeviatable from their devotional service in the spiritual, they don't fall either. So, but those who do, we've all fallen, so we're all fallible, we've fallen. So besides these two categories of those living entities in the spiritual world who don't fall, and all of us who have fallen, there is the greatest of all, the Supreme Lord, Uttama Purusha. Now, the whole theme of this chapter is the yoga of the Supreme Person. So eventually, that's what the whole idea is. There's only 3 more verses. Okay, so Lokatrayam Avisha, so that Paramatma, that Supreme Soul, has entered into this world. He's not remote. He's within each one of us, and within the atom. You read the Brahma Samhita, and there's that verse, Eko Pisaura Chahitum Jagadanda Kotin Fasheshu Vasadhari Vibhuti Binnam Tad Brahma Nishkalam Anantam Asheshu Bhutam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. There's that one Lord, Eko, who is maintaining all of the others. The same idea is there. And ultimately, that one Lord, that Super Soul, is also an expansion of Govinda, original personality in the spiritual world, who delegates everything. Just see how his supremacy. Hare Krishna, welcome. Prabhupada said right from the beginning, we learned that we are also part and parcel of the Lord, just like a drop of water in the ocean, or like a sun ray. That means we have Krishna's qualities, but the quantity is different, obviously, right? I don't know if you want to move over a little bit, but it's up to you. Yeah, just move over 6 inches, and we'll maintain our. That's better. So, those qualities are. You could easily see one of the qualities. We're always looking for enjoyment, right, as living beings. The problem is we're looking for enjoyment in the illusory world. And so we get illusory enjoyment, which means it's temporary. It's temporary. It's frustrating. So if we were God, what would we do? We'd make it so that that enjoyment never ends, wouldn't we? We say, well, I think I'll mix a little misery in there too. I don't want to get... No, for Krishna, there's no such thing. Whether he's in the earth or he's in the spiritual world or anywhere. So if you read the Krishna book, you read the 10th canto, and you read his Leela, he said they're all Leela. It's not just dancing with the gopis and playing with the boys and delighting his mother is Leela. It's all Leela. When there's some demon comes, oh, that's a lot of fun. And he fights with the demon. Sometimes he seems to be losing, like that thing with Kaliya. That's an amazing pastime. You see how he's you know what an impresario is? Someone who arranges for a play or for a dance, isn't it? And so Krishna is the director of the whole thing, and he's doing all these things to heighten the emotion, the feeling of love and anxiety of the residents of Vrindavan. So when that Kaliya pastime came, just imagine there's this huge snake. It's actually like a dragon, It doesn't describe that its fire is coming out. And he's got, this huge python who's poisoned all the waters or every. And then and they come to the bank of the Yamuna, and there he is. he's wrapped up in one of those coils, and he doesn't seem to be moving. You know, you can imagine this beloved Krishna. Oh, you know, Mother sort of faints, and all everyone is, and he stays in that situation for like what, 2 hours or something. And he said, just at the point, it says in the book, when he saw that his friends and his relatives and all of his beloved cows and everything were at the point of death, then he breaks out. You know? Says, oh, look, there's Krishna. And he's dancing, and the drums are playing, and right, the flowers are falling. So and even the rasa dance. You know, I read the Krishna book every day, so I go through. And I'm just reading the rasa dance. So he invites them out there, you know, with the flute, and then they break all the bounds. They get out of their houses. They're not even dressed properly. They just run out, you know. And they come and meet him and said, "Oh, thank you for coming. How can I please you? Why did you come out here? But be careful, because it's very dangerous out here, these dangerous animals, and it's very dark. And, you know, adulterous fairs are not good. You know, you never go to heaven, you know, so I think you should go back." So what are the gopis? Are you kidding? You know, they start scratching the ground with their toes, you know, and they're crying and everything. So he's churning up the emotion, you know, and finally he says, okay, you know, and they start walking on the Yamuna, you know, and they're playing around. Then they get a little proud, boom, he disappears. Oh, and they're so distraught, they start imitating his pastimes, and they're, you know, asking the trees, have you seen Krishna? You know, they're kind of mad. Finally they go it gets dark, you know, so they have to go to the river. And they're just sitting there, and they chant this wonderful set of prayers. Did you ever learn them when you're children? Jayati te dikam janmana vrajak. Does it ring a bell? You know, there's not only 19 of them, but they're the song of the highest separation. You know, but they're also kind of annoyed with him. You know, they Patisudan vayam Bharata bandavan adabalangite chachutagata and gatividaste bod gita mohita and kita vayoshita kascha jainashi. We left our fathers, our friends, our husbands, just to come out to here, bewildered by your flute. You know very well why we've come out here, and now you've abandoned us. Who but a cheater like you would abandon women in the middle of the night? But then the next moment said, oh, you know, then they changed the mood and said, please come and give us, you know. So he's churning up the emotions. The whole thing is going on like this. And this is what's happening in the spiritual world. It's not just like in the Vaikuntha planets, there's Vishnu, and there's all the servants, and they also look like Vishnu, you know, and they're serving him, and it's just that basically that one mood, you know, the awe and reverence for the Lord, you know, which is fine, you know. But in Goloka Vrindavan, this is what Lord Chaitanya taught, there's all these varieties, ever fresh nuances of relationship with Krishna, you know, whatever your relationship might be. I mean, when he goes out, it's just beautiful. The gopis' prayers of separation, there's 4 gopi geets. Actually, there's 5, because when Krishna's about to leave, being taken by Akrura, from Vrindavan to Mathura, so the gopis are all distraught, and they also have a song there, and that's also one of the gopi geets. But in one of the ones they're describing, how is it? Oh, it's just leaving me now, but maybe I'll remember it by the end. But the point is that, bringing it back to the present verse, is that we have to understand the all-pervasiveness of God, that He's there everywhere. And it's only because we're artificially forgetting Him that we're in this material world. So the whole process of bhakti is to systematically revive our forgotten relationship. What's really an encouraging verse in Lord Chaitanya teaches to Sanatana Goswami. It's a Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunoi Shovanadi Shuddha Chitte Koreye Udoi. The eternal perfection of love of God, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, is not something that has to be brought from outside or that you develop artificially. It's eternally there in you. Sadhya Kabunoi. Shovanadi Shuddha Chitti, by hearing and chanting, etc. The 2 foundational practices of devotional service: hearing the holy name, chanting the holy name, hearing all the shastra, and repeating them, glorifying. And that leads to what? Smaranam. If you do the hearing and chanting nicely, then you progressively remember Krishna more and more in your daily life. And hearing Bhagavad Gita, what do we learn? Krishna is everywhere. He's at Rasoham of Sakonteya, right? He begins chapter 7 after Arjuna says, I can't do this Ashtanga yoga. Chanchalam himana Krishna, my mind is too strong and too wild, like a wind, a hurricane wind. How can I control it? Krishna, I just can't do it. So then Krishna, he doesn't just give in. He says, I know it's difficult, but you can do it with practice, you know. So Arjuna says, okay, I'm going to practice, but what if I fail? You know, then what happens? You know, then what might fail? Then you'll be born, Srimatam Gehe, in a wealthy family, pious family. You won't have to worry about, you know, just keeping body and soul together. Or even better, in a yogi family. You know, and Prabhupada says in the Purba that we had a chance to be born in a family of devotees, which is so auspicious, you know. In other words, nothing is lost. You'll be able to consider. But Arjuna is not so happy. He says, oh God, I can't do it, you know. So Krishna says, all right. Yogi nama bisarve shammadgatena. Actually, the best yogi is one who's always thinking of me within his heart and worshiping me with great and transcendental faith. And that's Arjuna. He's an eternal friend of Krishna. So it's a big sigh of relief for him. But then in the next chapter, next verse, which is the beginning of the 7th chapter, Krishna says, now I'm going to tell you how your mind can be naturally attracted to me. Maya saktamana. We're all trying, that's the whole point, is to increase more and more our attraction, which is already there, to revive our original attraction to Krishna, which will then impel us to perform service. The service will become the platform of great pleasure. So he says, but first we have to, you know, learn some basics. That these energies that you're living with, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, we're familiar with those. That's what everything is made of. That's all coming from me. That's me also, you see. And the interaction of yourself with those, in form of taste and touch and smell and touch, that's also me. So he gives the example. Rasoham apsukandaya. You taste water, do you drink water every day? Even if it's just juice, you know, whatever you're drinking every day. But not alcoholic literature, let's not go there. So you drink, that's Krishna, that taste is Krishna. You know, famously, this is a pastime, in 22nd Avenue. As you probably know, it wasn't the best environment. I know that part of town. It's much better than the Bowery, which is where all the drunks stay, you know, people sleeping in the street. Nowadays we have it everywhere. But in those days, if you were out, down and out, somehow you make your way to New York and you hang out in the Bowery. So you have people from Idaho and South Carolina also sitting in. But so Prabhupada lived there for a while, which is amazing. You know, the drunks would roll over so they could get into his apartment. But then, just a few blocks north of that, then you hit Houston Street, which is kind of the boundary, and then above that, then the 26th Avenue. So it's 26th Avenue. If you keep going north, you get to 102nd Avenue, 200, 300. So Prabhupada is right down in it. And the environment is such that at that time, especially, there was this whole culture of people who were searching, largely because of LSD, because they would do something to your brain and you think you're seeing God and whatever, you know. So people became interested in India and meditation, all kinds of things. But without guidance, it was very self-destructive ultimately, you know, because you're messing up your brain. So Prabhupada came into the middle of that, but because there was all of this searching going on, and not unimportantly, Allen Ginsberg was there. He was world famous by that time, world famous poet. And he was living nearby, and he had come back from India, and he was singing Hare Krishna. He didn't know exactly what was going on, but he was singing it. He liked it, you know. And so that was a great boon. He gave Prabhupada the first harmonium. Where's he going to get a harmonium? You know, but he gave him his harmonium. And then when Prabhupada went to the West Coast, Allen Ginsberg was able to come, and they had that mantra rock dance. Prabhupada got on the map, you know, and all these famous bands, these, you know, rock bands. So Prabhupada got right into that, and he was able to use that in order to direct people's attention to Krishna, chiefly through the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. So this is how we can revive our understanding. And then we can begin to see Krishna everywhere in our lives. That's the whole point. Is that, what do you think the whole idea of prasadam is? We all have to eat. You have to sacralize your eating process. by offering to Krishna, cooking only certain kinds of foods and offering vegetarian foods with love and devotion, then it actually becomes spiritualized and you make advancement that way. And it's not a way to go away from Krishna because you're enjoying sense gratification, but it's a way of contacting Krishna because you're tasting what he tasted. But it all takes consciousness and training. And that's what Prabhupada is giving us here. So we're meant to see this world that is full of God. It's full of God because He's all pervasive. The Paramatma is there in our heart. But we can't get the instruction directly from Him. So He comes outside as the Guru, and He comes as Himself and as the Shastra. This is also Lord Chaitanya teaches that to Sanatana Goswami. And so we take advantage of these books and take advantage of the movement and all the teachings, and in this way we can stay in touch with Krishna and in this lifetime make advancement in going back to Godhead. So any discussion on this particular verse? The third class of living entity here, besides the conditioned souls and the infallible souls, there is the Supreme Soul, Krishna, who's never covered. And He's maintaining everything also, inexhaustible. All right, let's go on. Text 18. Yasmat chanamatitoham aksharad apichotamaha atosmi loke verecha patita purushottamaha. Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. Purport. No one can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, neither the conditioned soul nor the liberated soul. He is therefore the greatest of personalities. Now it is clear here that the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are individuals. The difference is that the living entities, either in the conditioned state or in the liberated state, cannot surpass in quantity the inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is incorrect to think of the Supreme Lord and the living entities as being on the same level or equal in all respects. There is always the question of superiority and inferiority between their personalities. The word Uttama is very significant. No one can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purusha Uttama, the last word in the verse. The word Loke signifies, quote, in the Paurusha Agama, the Smriti scriptures. Okay. As confirmed in the Nirukti dictionary, Lokyate Vedarto Nena. The purpose of the Vedas is explained by the Smriti scriptures. Now I have to have a little intermission here about Prabhupada's language. This word purpose can also mean purport, but only in English, not in American English. There's a difference. Prabhupada learned English. He learned at Scottish Churches College and everything in the early 20th century. It was all classic English. So I have, because I work as an editor for so many years, a computerized Oxford English Dictionary on my computer. And I thought, I first noticed this in the introduction to the Ishopanishad. He said the word Veda has different meanings, but ultimately the purpose is one. The word Vedas means books of knowledge. I forget what it is. I said, wait a minute, the purpose is one? The purport is one. Purport means meaning. So that I first said, let me check this, and sure enough, there are various places in Prabhupada's books where he uses the word purpose to mean purport. Purport we find in every book, every page. But the word purport means meaning. So here the word purpose means meaning. Let's see. Where was I? Oh, here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. As confirmed in the Nirukti dictionary, Lokyate Vedarto Nena. The purpose of the Vedas is explained by the Smriti scriptures. The purport or the meaning of the Vedas is explained by the Smriti scriptures. So the Supreme Lord, in his localized aspect of Paramatma, is also described in the Vedas themselves. The following verse appears in the Vedas, Chandogya Upanishad 8.12.3. Tavad esha samprasado smat sharirat samutaya patram jyoti rupam sampadya svena rupena binishpadyate sa uttama purusha. There's the same words, uttama purusha, we had in the beginning of the previous verse. The super soul coming out of the body enters the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Then in his form, he remains in his spiritual identity. That Supreme is called the Supreme Personality. This means that the Supreme Personality is exhibiting and diffusing his spiritual effulgence, which is the ultimate illumination. That Supreme Personality also has a localized aspect as the Paramatma. By incarnating himself as the son of Satyavati and Parashara, that's Vyasadeva. He explains the Vedic knowledge as Vyasadeva. So this is some of the technicalities of how the Paramatma is in the universe, within every atom, within every soul, right? But what happens at the time of annihilation? So the Paramatma, he comes out and he merges back into the Brahma Jyoti. That's the idea. But the Paramatma, is so important. I remember reading in the introduction many years ago, the introduction to the Gita, that we should always remember. He said, probably we should not forget, always remember that the Super Soul is always with us, and that he knows everything that we're thinking, everything that we're doing. Now, I recently thought, as you may know, in the American Constitution, there is a law. There is one of the rules there. One of the elements is that you can't just break into someone's house. The authorities can't just come in and search your house without a warrant, right? There has to be some real suspicion and some reason why they want to search your house. So there's the understanding that the government, can also get out of hand, and they try to control everything. And and you're walking down the street here, well, you feel okay. But if you're walking down the street in Beijing, they got cameras everywhere. Yes, everywhere. They recognize your face, And so you feel paranoid, because you don't know if that authority really has your best interest at heart. That's the point. But Paramatma, he knows everything that we're thinking. But he is Surit. Bhoktaram yekisapasam sarva loka maheshadam suridam sarva bhutanam gatpamam shantamrichati. How can we be peaceful? Well, we know that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is on our side. He's our best friend, Surit. The word Surit, Prabhupada says, there are different words, just like in English. You have friends, you have acquaintances, you have bosom buddies, So the bosom buddy is kind of the closest we have to Surit. Rit means heart. But Prabhupada says, and he would cite his letters this way, your ever well-wisher, because he's the representative of the Super Soul. In other words, that friend who is always your well-wisher, always ready to help you, and has your best interest at heart, that can only be God. Otherwise, your other friend, you come to visit, you stay, 1 week, 2 weeks, he said, Prabhu, really, this is my living room, can you please, right? So none of us, because we're limited, but God is not limited. He has all the power, and he's not out. He doesn't want to exploit us. He doesn't want us to be in any pain. We're his children. He says that at the beginning of the previous chapter, right? So he all of this creation and him coming here and speaking the Bhagavad Gita, it's all in the effort to enlighten us again. So that with that knowledge, we'll again perform acts that will purify us and will return home, back to Godhead. So he has our best interest at heart. And he's trying to teach us, and we can't hear him in the original form, but he comes outside as the Guru, as the incarnation he comes. Of course, sometimes he comes as the self, very rarely. But he leaves great souls on the planet to give us the way in which we can contact him. And that's what Prabhupada is doing now. He's serving his Lord by giving us this wonderful book. Okay, so which one did we just do? I'm sorry, 18? We're on 19. All right. Yo mameva asammudho janati purushottamam sasarvavid bhajati mam Sarvabhavena Bharata. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. Purport. There are many philosophical speculations about the constitutional position of the living entities and the Supreme Absolute Truth. Now, in this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead clearly explains that anyone who knows Lord Krishna to be the Supreme Person is actually the knower of everything. The imperfect knower goes on simply speculating about the absolute truth, but the perfect knower, without wasting his valuable time, engages directly in Krishna consciousness, the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Throughout the whole of the Bhagavad Gita, this fact is being stressed at every step. And still, there are so many stubborn commentators on the Bhagavad Gita who consider the Supreme Absolute Truth and the living entities to be one and the same. Vedic knowledge is called Shruti, learning by oral reception. One should actually receive the Vedic message from authorities like Krishna and his representatives. Here, Krishna distinguishes everything very nicely, and one should hear from this source. Simply to hear like the hogs is not sufficient. One must be able to understand from the authorities. It is not that one should simply speculate academically. One should submissively hear from the Bhagavad Gita that these living entities are always subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who is able to understand this, according to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, knows the purpose of the Vedas. There it is again. I think it's purport of the Vedas. No one else knows the purport of the Vedas. The word bhajati is very significant. In many places, the word bhajati is expressed in relationship with the service of the Supreme Lord. If a person is engaged in full Krishna consciousness in the devotional service of the Lord, it is to be understood that he has understood all the Vedic knowledge. In the Vaishnav's parampara, it is said that if one is engaged in the devotional service of Krishna, then there is no need for any other spiritual process for understanding the Supreme Absolute Truth. Such a person has already come to the point because he is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. He has ended all preliminary processes of understanding. But if anyone, after speculating for hundreds of thousands of lives, does not come to the point that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that one has to surrender there, all his speculation for so many years and lives is a useless waste of time. Now, near the beginning of the Bhagavatam, there's a series of verses. I've referred to them before. It's first canto, second chapter, text 6 through 21 or so. And those verses, 6 through 21, provide a complete lesson in Krishna consciousness. And we made a book out of it, because Prabhupada would often speak on those verses. He spoke on all of them more than once. And so I said, this would make a great book, just like we have the teachings of Queen Kunti, based on the prayers of Queen Kunti, chapter 8 of the first canto. The teachings of Kapila Dev, based on Prabhupada's lectures in Bombay, and the latter part of the third canto. So I said, this would make a great book too. And we called it the Dharma, the way of transcendence. Because the whole question was, the sages of Naimisharanya wanted Sutta Goswami to tell them what is the essential Dharma by which the living entity can become completely happy and satisfied, you see? So this is the answer. And the first verse is very important. Savai pungsang paro dharmo, the supreme dharma. Savai pungs for human beings. Savai pungsang paro dharmo, yato bhakti radhokshaje. That dharma which engenders and develops in you the bhakti, you see, to adhokshaja. This word is often used when you're speaking about the first entrance into the bhakti. Because it's a name for Krishna, but it has nothing to do with his life in Vrindavan and so forth. It just simply means the transcendent Lord. Adha aksha ja. Now aksha literally means eyes, but it can also mean all the senses. And aksha ja refers to knowledge which you develop by your investigation, the ascending process of knowledge, scientific method. But Krishna pushes it all down. Adha means down. In other words, he's beyond that. That's not going to get you to Krishna, you see. So that transcendent Lord. So that Dharma, which engenders, which develops in you your natural bhakti for the transcendent Lord, that is the supreme Dharma and will give you full bliss. But there's two caveats, you see. It has to be a haituki and a pratihata. Your bhakti, loving devotional service, has to be without any material motive. In other words, it's not like, okay, I'll love Krishna, from 9 to 8, 9 to 8 in the evening. And then, an hour before I take rest, I'll get all the fruits, It's not like that. The actual process of serving Krishna is itself so pleasing that the devotee doesn't want anything else. Otherwise, why would Lord Chaitanya say, Nadanang, nadanang nasundaring kapitang bhajagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavadar bhakti nahoitiki tvahi. Wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. Because the pleasure that comes from serving Krishna purely in full Krishna consciousness is so great that it just blocks out any other desire. You don't want to interrupt that with some kind of a material request, like the gopis, right? There's that famous story Prabhupada would tell. It's so sweet. Krishna, he wanted to test his devotees. So he's there in Vrindavan and he pretended to have a big headache. Oh, God. So someone came to him and said, what can we do to relieve it? The only thing that will relieve my headache is the dust from the lotus feet of my devotees. So they rushed off the different devotees, And, the story goes, they went here and there and people knew about it. Said, oh, no, I can't give them dust. That'll be a great offense to Krishna. I can't do that, So then finally he came to the gopis and they said, yeah, take all the dust you want, but you'll go to hell if you put your dust on Krishna's, on his head, your dust on your... He said, we don't care about that, as long as Krishna can be relieved from his headache, you see. So that was showing how the gopis are at the highest level. They're ready to give up everything, their name, fate, leaving the home like that is just not done, just to please Krishna for his pleasure. And it's all concentrated in this one line. There's a beautiful verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita that we should all notice. This is really the foundational verse of the Hare Krishna movement, Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Annabilashita shunyam jnana karma jnanavratam anukulena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama uttama bhakti. Which is what Chaitanya taught, is defined here. First he says, anya abhilashita, any other desire not covered by that, anavritam, not contaminated by it. And he gives the categories, jnana, karmadi, anavritam. Karma adi means etc. So jnana means desire for knowledge, for liberation. Karma is what we know, karma, fruit of activities. And it also takes into account this the desire for mukti. Bhukti, mukti, siddhi, kami, sakaliya, shanta. It's a material desire. I want to be liberated. Prahlad illustrates this very well in his prayers, to Lord Nrsingadev. Near the end, he's saying, oh God, I have to review these shlokas. So before that, he says, no, not yet, but just, Naibod vijay paradodacya vaitaranyas tadvi yagayana mahamata magna chitta. Shochetatova makachetasa indriyata maya sukhaya bodhamudvataho vimudhan. So he's almost winding up his prayers to the Nrsingadev. Such a dramatic scene, you can imagine. There's a dead body of Hiranyakashipu over there without a heart, just all bloody. But he also killed all these other soldiers who came at him. With his thousands of hands, he manifested. So it's quite a far out scene there. And it was so ghastly, and he he wasn't cooled down. After all that, he was still showing a lot of rage. And so the Brahma and Shiva and even Lakshmi, they were trying to pacify him from a distance. The prayers. The prayers are there, but he wasn't pacified. So finally they said, Prahlad, you go. He likes you. Maybe you can do something. So Prahlad was completely fearless. This is his beloved Lord. So he goes up to him, bows down, and right away it's Komala Nrsinga. It's Prahlad. Puts his hand on his head. Because he's just a 5-year-old boy. I mean, all this Sanskrit he doesn't know so well, just like Dhruva. But as soon as he got his hand in, then he started articulating beautiful prayers. Check it out, chapter 9, 7th canto. But near the end, He's talking about his own situation. So this first verse is really, really important. It says, Naiva udvijay. This word udvija means disturbed. I am not at all disturbed in any sense. Because I'm with you, and you're on the other side of the Baitarani River. You're in the spiritual world, so I'm always feeling your presence. I'm fine. And anytime I want, Twadvi Yagayana Mahamanta Magna Chitta. I can immerse my mind in an ocean of nectar just by chanting your glories. But then he says something very interesting. Then he says, I am lamenting. What did you say? It's already a problem. What's all this? And he says that but I am lamenting for these fools, these vimudhas, very foolish souls, who have turned away from you, indriyartha, for the sake of the indriyas, indriya priti, maya sukhaya bodham, maya sukhaya, trying for the illusory flickering pleasures of maya sukhaya, bodham, wearing the great burden of trying to get those fleeting little, So they're suffering so much, I need to try to help them. The next verse, now it comes to me what the verse is. Prayena deva munayo svavamukti kama, maunam chadandi bhajane naparata nishta. So he's describing these transcendentalists who are simply still self-centered. They just want their own mukti. The heck with all these other people, let me get out. It's too disturbing. I'm going to the mountains. I'm going to the hills, the forest. Be alone, you see? And they practice silence. Maunam charanti vijane, no people. Napararta nishta, very important phrase. Having no desire to help others. Para arta nishta. Not determined at all to give others the benefit, you see? So he says, I'm not like that. Napararta is let me see if I can get it from the beginning. Prayena deva manayo savamukti kama maunang chadandi bhajaneb napararta nishta naitan vihaya kupanavima muksha eko nanyam chadasi shadanam brahmato napashe. But I'm not like that, you see? Because I know that there's no one else but you that can save them, and I have to give them you. In other words, he's going to be the guru. He's going to be the medium through which they be. So I can't abandon them. So I'm going to stay, and help them. So this is the attitude of the real preacher. He's experiencing moment to moment the shelter, the peace, the joy, the bliss of Krishna consciousness, and he realizes that this is the only medicine. This is the only way people can really be helped. Otherwise, it's just a false remedy. And this is another prayer of Prahlad. I'm sorry, getting off on Prahlad's prayers. Why should I be sorry? This is all transcendental. So he says in this other prayer, this is one of my favorites of all time. He's describing the material condition first, in the first 2 lines. 3 lines. And he says, Yasmat priya priya viyoga sayoga janma shokagnina sakalayonisha dahyamana dukaushadam tatapi dukam atadhyaham bhuman brahmami vadame tavadasya yogam. Dasya yogam is the same as bhakti yoga. So he's analyzing the material condition. It says, Yasmat, this is very ingenious, in a few words, this is Bhagavatam. Yasmat priya priya viyoga sayoga janma shokagnina. Shokagnina means the fire of lamentation. Everyone is burning in that. Sooner or later, what is causing it? The things that are dear to you are, by the force of time or even suddenly, ripped away from you. Just by getting old, what's so important to you? Your health. That's taken away, right? Try to maintain it, but so that's taken away. That's a source of shokagnina, fire of lamentation. And on the other side, those things which you don't want, which are abominable, they're forced upon you. I remember reading this play when I was a kid, Existentialism by Sartre. And I only remember one line from it. Hell is other people. Can you imagine living like that? It's such. This is, they lived through World War II. Anyway, but that's the way it is. Not just other people. There's also these little viruses and there's so many things. So these 2 things are causing us to be uncomfortable in this world. We love someone or something, or we value it, is taken away, and we hate something, it's forced on you. Yes, sir. So in human life, this is in all species, he's saying, it's like that. But in human life, we have strategies to ward off the dukkha. It's called duk aushadhi. Aushadam is a medicine, right? Duk aushadam. But the very duk aushadam tadapi dukkam causes more misery. right? You have a medicine, but it has side effects, right? And you have, So, atadviyaham, and all because we're identifying with what we're not. We're thinking with something we're not. We're thinking with the body. Atadviyaham. So now the last line, there's a solution. There's Nrsingadev sitting there in front of him. Bhuman brahmame vadame tabadasya yogam. Oh great Lord, please instruct me in your dasya yoga, your bhakti yoga. That will really solve the problem. And all the books are like that. So that's a little sidelight, but it all fits together. So whoever, we did 19, right? Okay, so there's one more verse, we'll complete it tomorrow, next week. Whoever knows me as Supreme Personality without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. Now what is this knowing of everything? We become omniscient suddenly? No, he doesn't mean that. He means that we know everything we need to know. We know everything essential. And so that's, he's winding up here, and ultimately it all culminates at the end of the 18th chapter. You just need those two verses, Manmanabhaman Bhakto and Sarvadam Vidachija. But knowing, the Supreme Person and how he's always there, ready to instruct us, is a very comforting thing for all the bhaktas. All right, we took all the time, but can't leave without one poem, something I think. All right. A few selections from the Madhurashtrika about the holy name. Of sweet things, it's the sweet, I'll just give you the English. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of things that purify, it purifies most powerfully. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. From Brahma's realm atop the sky down to the lowly grass, illusion reigns in Maya Devi's treacherous morass. The truth, the only truth, the name of Shri Hari, the holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Remember that our final breath may come at any time, no matter if we're old and sick or in our youthful prime. So young and old alike should chant the name incessantly. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Alas, what sorrow, what great pain, the worst calamity, for people to forget the holy name of Shri Hari. Although the name's a priceless gem, mere broken glass they see. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Just fill your ears, just fill them with the name of Shri Hari. Just chant the name with all sincerity. Just sing the name, just sing the holy name eternally. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Now we'll chant the holy name in front of the deities. And we have our famous drummer here. This should be good. I won't have to do my fake drumming anymore.